Hey guys, the Comics Kid 2099 here, and ordinarily on Mondays I talk about X-Men stuff. I either spotlight a character that I feel like needs to be explained a little bit, or a concept that's maybe a little bit confusing, or I will talk about a storyline from a longer run of X-Men stories. But I didn't want to jump right into another longish run of X-Men comics. I wanted to talk about a few standalone minis and stuff like that. And today I wanted to talk about Phoenix Endsong, written and drawn by a couple of Gregs, written by Greg Pak and drawn by Greg Land. Let me go ahead and talk about Greg's Land art because I'm probably going to forget that if I don't talk about it right now. I've never really been a fan of Greg Land's art. He is very well known as being the guy who traces pornography and penthouse type magazines, traces the women in various weird poses that you would find in magazines like that, and then he makes them into fictional comic book characters. And I've never liked anyone who will trace something and then try to pass it off as original artwork. I don't think that that is art. I think that is taking somebody else's hard work. Even if it's a photograph of a real human being, you're still taking somebody else's artwork and then you're trying to pass it off as your own. And I don't think that's very good. I've never liked that Marvel continues to employ this guy when it is very well known that he does this sort of thing, and he does that sort of thing here. Now, I will say that once upon a time, Greg Land was a better artist. In the late 90s, early 2000s, he drew a few issues of it was during Grant Morrison's Justice League run, but I don't think these issues were actually written by Morrison. I think they were fill-in issues written by Mark Waid. But he drew a couple of issues of JLA in the late 90s, early 2000s, and he was really good back then. He didn't do the tracing pornography thing like he does now. And you can Google Greg Land tracing, and you will see numerous examples of him tracing these photographs and other pictures and trying to pass it off as his real stuff. And that's very evidently going on here. So I did not like the art in this book. I just wanted to talk about now in case I forgot to talk about it later. Now let me talk about the story. The story is also not very good, but it's going to be a lot harder for me to talk about that because it's a little complex and not really in a good way. It's just really convoluted the way all this stuff is going on, and it's going to be hard for me to talk about what I liked and did not like. Basically, there are three separate things going on here. You've got the main meat of the story. The Phoenix Force has somehow been resurrected by this group of rogue Shi'ar soldiers. They were trying to bring it back so that they could kill it permanently, and they fail, and then it comes to Earth looking for a new host. It brings Jean Grey back from the dead, and it is searching for Scott Summers. We don't really know why until the final issue. Meanwhile, while all of that is going on, the Phoenix has kind of sort of resuscitated Quentin Quire, who we were really not sure what happened to Quentin at the end of Grant Morrison's New X-Men. We were told that he ascended to a new plane of existence. Here, we see that he is basically a big jar of green gas. And then the Phoenix Force somehow brings him back to life, turns him back into a human, and he is trying to use the Phoenix Force to resurrect Sophie from the 5 and 1, who died at the very end of Morrison's New X-Men run. He's trying to bring her back so that they can live happily ever after. And then the third thing is that while all of this is going on, basically this entire 5-issue miniseries is a reaffirmation that Scott and Emma are perfect for each other, that they are the perfect couple, and people who really don't like these two need to just stop whining and complaining because this is the way that it is now. And I don't really think that we needed 5 entire issues just to tell us that Scott and Emma are a couple and they are good for each other. I really don't think that we needed that. One of the things that I really liked about the very end of Morrison's New X-Men run was that he was slowly building to these two being together. They were kind of having this psychic affair all throughout his run, but you didn't know that these two were actually going to be a for real couple when you were reading Morrison's run. You didn't think that was how he was going to end things. And the way he ended it, I think, was a very brilliant way of telling off anybody who said that they did not like our Boy Scout, Scott Summers, getting together with this trollop who broke up their favorite couple, Scott Summers and Jean Grey. Basically, Jean Grey from the future, she goes back in time and she encourages Cyclops and White Queen to get together and become a couple, because if they stay together and they keep the X-Men going after her death, then the future is a brighter place. And if they break up and they let the X-Men disband because of Jean Grey's death, then the future is a very dark place. So she goes back in time and basically gives her blessing on this couple happening. And so anyone who says that they don't like Cyclops dating the White Queen, that this is a betrayal of Jean Grey, and that their golden couple is being peed upon by this new coupling, all anyone has to do is go back and point to Morrison's run where Phoenix gives her blessing. And that was a brilliant way of starting off this couple, I think. I think it was a very good way to say, okay, that era of Cyclops' life is over. He's now with this new woman. And I don't think that we needed 5 entire entire issues just to tell people, by the way, guys, this is not going away anytime soon. These two are happy with each other. They are going to remain a couple. And I feel like that was the whole theme of this miniseries, is that these two are a couple, and there's nothing that you can say that will change your minds about that. And I feel like someone somewhere had to say, this is a really good idea to make a miniseries out of. And I'm very curious who said that, because I don't really think there's a whole lot going on in this miniseries once you get past all of that. Once you get behind Scott Summers and Emma Frost are a couple, and this miniseries is trying to remind us that hey, they're a good couple, and you need to stop complaining about that. Once you get past all of that, this book is very shoddy. Very little plot actually happens here. Basically, while all that is going on, the Phoenix Force has a crush on Scott Summers. And this is because the Phoenix has lingering Jean Grey memories and feelings, because way back in the late 70s, when the Phoenix first possessed Jean Grey, we found out many years later what actually happened was that the Phoenix Force took Jean Grey's body and put it at the bottom of the Jamaica Bay so that she could heal from radiation poisoning, and then the Phoenix basically created a duplicate Jean Grey body and mind, and then the Phoenix went on to join the X-Men and actually believe that she was Jean Grey herself. And so now the Phoenix Force has all of these lingering Jean Grey thoughts and feelings, and it remembers having strong feelings for Scott Summers. So it comes back to life and is seeking out Scott Summers basically because it has these feelings for it. And that's kind of tied in with the whole, no, Scott and Emma are destined to be together now, which this book continues to hit on our head over and over and over again. And I feel like that's just kind of a dumb plot for a miniseries. I don't really think that you needed 5 entire issues just to say, hey, look, guys, Scott and Emma are really meant to be together. I keep saying that, but that's basically all that this miniseries is about. I also don't really like the idea of using the Phoenix Force in this miniseries in such a small way. The Phoenix Force should be a huge, monumental thing, and anytime the Phoenix comes into a story, it should be huge. I really, really did not like Avengers vs. X-Men, but I do like that the Phoenix Force was treated like a big deal in that story. In this story, it's upside down. In this story, 1 month after this miniseries was over, nobody references that the Phoenix Force came back and brought Jean back from the dead yet again. And I don't like that. I don't like that the Phoenix is basically just contained within this miniseries, and then after this miniseries, everyone just goes back to its life as usual in the X-Men world. I really feel like if you're going to use the Phoenix, and I don't think that you should use the Phoenix very often. I think it's also one of those concepts that use it very sparingly, and when you do use it, it will feel like a big deal. But when you use it, it has to be treated like a big deal. And because it keeps getting used all the time, it stops feeling like it's such a big, important deal. And also, in this case, it's used and it's not even treated like it's a big deal. Overall, I really feel like this book was just a big, huge disappointment. I remembered liking this story way back when I first read it, which was probably over 10 years ago, or about 10 years ago. I read it, and I remembered really liking it. I have no idea what I was thinking when I read this book the first time, because it's really not very good. There's not a lot of depth here. Basically, it's a very shallow adventure story that tries to pass itself off as being this very meaningful human character story, but it's not even that, because these characters, we already know that Scott and Emma are a good couple, or at least we know that at this time. If you look at it in retrospect, this story might even feel like even more of a disappointment, because after Avengers vs. X-Men, Cyclops and Emma, they broke up with each other, and then they were kind of sort of still allies. They were still friends with each other, I guess, but they were no longer boyfriend-girlfriend. So you might look on this story now, and you might think that this is even a bigger disappointment than what it is to me right now. But I don't really care about who Cyclops is dating. None of that really bothers me, which might be why I was so lukewarm to this whole story, because I don't think we need an entire 5-issue miniseries or a 5-issue story of any kind just to set up, okay, this is who this character is going to be dating, whether any of you like it or not. So those are my thoughts on Phoenix Endsong. Really did not care for this miniseries, but maybe you guys did. Maybe if you liked it, let me know why you liked it in comments below. Tell me about it. Let me know about your own experiences, and I will see you guys later in the week with some other videos, and next week I'll be back to do another X-Men video of some kind. It will be another miniseries. I'm not really sure which one I plan on tackling next, but those are my thoughts on this book, so I will see you guys in the future. Have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.